Hello, Sheena Douglas again. This is a card that is actually a Christmas themed card from my new Christmas stamps. This is Christmas Cocoa that you're looking at, the main image, and you may be thinking that it's being stamped with distress ink and coloured with distress ink because it has that kind of feel. It hasn't. Everything there, other than the stars and the wording, has been stamped and coloured with watercolours. So that's what I'm going to show you, because I think it's a fantastic cost-effective way to create what I think is a really lovely look. I think it looks more watercolory than stampy, if you know what I mean. So this is what I'm going to show you, and right, so we'll pop that to one side. What we're going to start with is a piece of, as usual, surprise surprise, for me, Centura Pearl card. I love Centura Pearl card, not because of the shiny, pearly, pretty side, so it doesn't matter if you get the gold, the silver, the whatever, just whatever colour you like, because more often than not, for me, 90% of the time, I'm using the matte side, the uncoated side. It's fab for your distress inks, watercolour, loads of things. So that's the first thing. Next thing you're going to need is a set of these. Ooh, pretty. These are the Pebeo watercolour tin, and I'll tell you quickly why I love this tin. You've got a fantastic range of colours. You've got 24 half pan colours, and that half pan's a standard size, which is fantastic. And you also get a brush in here, which I haven't got, which is it comes in two, so it's a great brush. But what I love is you've got all your colours in a circle here, which you can have and use and have and arrange it so that it's a colour wheel, so you don't have to keep referring to another bit of card or another piece of reference. You've got your colours there to help when you're learning how to mix colours and what not to do, and it's fab. So for an example, I've got reds here and greens over there, and if I cross the stream a bit like Ghostbusters, I know I'm going to get brown, because red and green's going to give me brown. So just a quick one there. Right, so they're the watercolours. Next thing I'm going to need, I'm going to pop these to sort of one side, is my image, which is on a clear rocker block, the new, brand new Sheena branded, hello, eventually, hey, clear rocker blocks. They only come in extra large because that's the size I always tell people just to buy. I personally don't bother with the other smaller sizes in the originals. I like this size, which comes in another long one, and all your stamps fit on it. Even the tiniest image you can stamp with this extra large block. So to me, it just seems, why don't I just use the extra large? And here's the image I've got really cutting out really closely, because it's not on a cushion, it's not on U-mount or anything, or another type of cushion. It's just cut straight up to the image. So what I'm going to do is, before I do anything else, I'm going to put this horrible block here, because I'm stamping on a plastic top table, and I'm going to get a hideous image if I don't do that. Right, hopefully you can see that. I've got a flat brush. I'm trying to get everything in shot here for you. And I'm going to really quite wet this flat brush, and I'm using the sepia, which is this one here. And I'm really wetting this watercolour here, and I'm getting it so that, and it's not like it shows if you haven't used watercolours, those of you who haven't tried them yet, they release the colour straight away. So what I want is a good amount of colour that's ready to just go with, kind of an inky consistency, if you know what I mean. Inky to kind of thin, single cream-ish type consistency. That hopefully is good. It depends on how hot the day is, you know, how hot your room is, how quickly you get this on your stamp, as to how thick or thin you want it. If it's too thin, it'll run, you won't get any definition. But if it's too thick, it'll dry before you get it stamped. So it's one of those things, you just got to try it and see. And hopefully we'll get this in one. So the secret is, get it over your image as quickly as you can. Don't ponder too much, and then stamp. Well, hey, look at that. Not bad at all. So, I mean, for watercolour, that's pretty good, I think. Hopefully you can see that. You can see it now. My cameraman is signalling to get it in shot better for you. So that's a fab start. Now, what I would do now is I would use my heat tool to dry this image. Now, I need to find my heat tool. Under these lights, it'll dry in no time. So we'll just have a quick pause and then we'll continue. Now this is dry. It's important that you dry it, because if you don't, when you come to do this next bit, you're going to not have any definition and it's going to run away from you, the colour. You're going to lose your stamp lines. So what I'm going to do is use an ordinary brush. This is a Paint Fusion number 6 brush. Again, these are all available. If you go to my website, sheena.tv, I'll show you where to get them. But it's a fantastic set of brushes for under £10. You can't go wrong. And look at how often you're going to use them. Look at how it's formed a point, even though it's a number 6 size. This is what I'm going to be using. So some water, but get rid of the excess. In fact, if you want, always have a piece of kitchen paper in your hand when you're watercolouring. Tap it on the tissue, on the kitchen paper, and it'll just make sure there's no runny. You see, that's still a bit wet, so I'm going to blot it a bit more, because a drier brush gives you more control. You just want enough to be able to agitate that paint where you want it to move. So I'm starting at the sides. Now you'll notice on my stamps, I'll always give you a start off at 10 as to where it's going to be darker on the image, either with some shading such as hatching or cross hatching, and or a thicker line to indicate this is a darker area. And so what happens as well is when you blend with water, it's kind of like magic painting, because there's some shading there or the line's thicker, it'll automatically release more of the ink or paint for you, so it's going to shade itself virtually. Now you see that's really dark there. I don't want to kind of have that any darker towards the centre if I can help it, because I'm trying to make the mug look like it's got a highlight. So now I'm being really careful to just blend this towards the centre, just agitate the paper, and that because it's watercolour, it's meant to do this. It's meant to just lift with some more water. It won't lift entirely. You can't go back to white card, but you can shade with it. Now can you see, now we've got a nice kind of shape to that mug starting. The next thing I want to do, and I'm not really doing there's a little splodge, that's nothing. I'm just going to go around and create a shadow at the bottom of this handle like this, just by blending in that there. Now later what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some darker bits as well. So to make the middle look lighter, I'll have to make an area look darker, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead, cinnamon sticks, let's just highlight the bottom of them. You don't want to lose all the detail you've got. The whipped cream in here is a little bit dark where the paint gathered up a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm agitating that area, then I'm going to take a clean bit of paper and I'm just blotting it. So can you see how we've lifted a lot of that dark area there now? It's just not quite as intense. And the same, let me just go ahead and try a little bit there. Just be careful, just again, blot your brush, little bits of water, not running, not a water brush. Oh no, not a water brush. Works of the devil himself. Don't, because the water brushes are as wet as they want to be, not as wet as you want them to be, and you haven't got the control. You really are working with almost a dry brush here to get a good result. Now see, under there is really dark. Just blend it, it's a shadow. We're going to come back and we're going to darken that in a minute. All these bits in here, I'm not going to get too fussy. You don't want to lose your pine needle, so don't overblend those areas. Underneath the candy cane, you want a darker shadow than we've got there, but we can add that. This is your start off at 10 by stamping with the image. It's a really, like I say, I love the effect, because it looks like watercolour. When you're finished, it looks more painterly than stampy. I'm going to darken underneath this ribbon. Now I'm having a bit of trouble because these mega lights I have are reflecting on the card, and you probably see better than I can. I might be horrified when I look at this at the end of the video and think, whoa, wasn't quite how I thought it was going to look, but I'm doing my best here. So just the cookies and things, just to darken. You still want to leave some light areas. You don't want to blend everything to within an inch of its life. So this little metal bell here, I just want to blend around the base. And again, I want to darken that at some point. Now I'm going to stand back and I'm going to look at what I've got. what I've got is quite dark. The mug's quite dark, it's darker than the other one I did. I can try and lighten the centre by adding some water and quickly blotting. Lighten it a little bit. But what I can also do is darken some areas. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to take my stamp, go back to your stamp, and there's loads of paint on there if you can see. See, and don't worry about it's drying off. It's the easiest thing to clean off your stamps, easier than ink, because a little bit of water and it all comes off. And then I can go ahead and darken around the bottom here a little bit, and I can darken even the side of the mug a little bit more, just to make it look a little bit more rounded. You see? Just be careful though, little bits at a time, just build it up carefully. And be careful that you don't overwet the card and it starts to release fibres and things. I need to darken where this candy cane is here. I want a nice dark shadow under there. So just pick up the paint that you've put on here. So nothing's wasted. None of the watercolour's wasted. You're just painting with what you've got on your stamp. And then you're just going to continue like this. And you can again darken some areas where, just think about it, think where it's going to be the darkest, the shadowy bits in there where you're not going to get any light, so you can really go to town and get some dark areas, you know, like that. See how now it's got much more definition as popping out of the card. Just darken around these cookies a little bit. These are just going to be shadows at the base, and don't be scared to just drag a little bit of the colour out a little bit. Now I'm not going to do too much more because I want to show you how I tinted it. I'm going to go back to the watercolours, and I'm going to use a tiny bit of colour, and I'm going to use maybe the indigo, and I have a feeling this video might be in 2 parts. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag some colour like this at the sides, and then stop. Wet your brush, dry it. By the way, you hear me drying it, I'm actually drying it on a piece of kitchen paper I have underneath my water container as well. It just becomes habit once you start to do this. Blending with distress inks, blending, oh look at that. Oh, what a mucky book. Right, also be careful that your hands are clean. That might be where a little stamped image is going to be. Might have a star there. Fortunately I have all these on this stamp set. Can you see how I'm just taking my time? Well, I'm actually going a bit quicker than I normally would because I'm wanting to not keep you sitting watching all day. And again, I'm not even going to paint. Oh, you can see what I've done there? Kind of. Well, they're all blue under there now. I meant to miss a bit as well. What's the saying? More haste, less speed, and less accuracy in my case. This is why I say start with a large area as well, because if you're like me, you're going to need to trim areas down. Now we're going to use a red here. These are all just from the watercolours, but I'm mixing really pale colours. Now I'm going to continue like this. I won't probably do the whole thing because I'm sure you're going to get the idea of how it works. And then I'm just going to go back and refer to the finished thing to show you. So I've continued, you can see the mugs there, the candy cane. I used a little bit of a one colour, kind of a sap colour green, just to tint the pine areas. You don't want to lose all the detail though, just a light bit of colouring, a kind of a nice warm kind of sienna-y kind of colour for the biscuits and or the cookies, wherever you are, either side of the pond. And to age it, I use a little bit of old paper distress ink around the sides. Little bit of bling in the form of some stickles, and you're done. I love that technique. Hopefully you do too, and have a try.